So, hi guys, just looking and talking about when you damage a lens or snap the lens off in worst case scenario. So lenses are built today. Some of these big lenses, obviously this is not huge, but it's a 100 or 400. I've got the 2x converter on there at the minute. If you were to drop this lens on hard ground or even on your carpet, possibly at home, depending on how it lands, a lot of this is obviously sheer luck. You could end up with a broken lens. Could have snapped off, causing major damage. Your major damage is that you could snap off or damage the body of the camera, including the mount, including the lens. So modern lenses today are designed to basically, if you were to drop it, it will basically just pull away, it will snap some breakaway bolts. And what they normally are is, if I take the converter off, the converter will have them anyway. So your little screws there, for example, but if you look at the lens here, so we've got the 100 or 400 here, and you've got 4 screws. Underneath those screws there, there'll either be on this line here, there'll either be a mount here that's designed to fail, or it'll be the 4 screws that screw into something like a nylon style plastic. And if you give it a hard enough whack or enough pressure, it will pull this mount out. So it'll either not pull it all the way through, depending on the hard, or it will snap it off completely. You'll have the lens on the floor, and you'll have this mount still attached to the camera. But what it won't have done, in theory, is damaged this mount here. I've seen cameras in the past, old school, and in fact I did do one back in the 90s. I dropped a camera on a dance floor and it got kicked, and it broke. Sorry, it didn't break. It bent the mount on the lens, so it bent these pieces here, like the flangey bit, which basically stopped the lens rotating to get it off. And basically we eventually got it off, but it damaged this ring here, the mount, and actually damaged or bent the actual casing as well. So I had to have a new whole casing to the camera, new mount, new part of the lens had to be replaced, and everything like that. And I think it was about, even back then, I think it was about 150 to 200 quid, something like that, to be done. And that's an old SLR, that wasn't even digital. So that's the possibility that may happen. So obviously these modern cameras now, if you basically snap off that part of the lens, like the tip there with the mount on, it saves the pressure from this. So basically this, to replace this body and to replace this mount or anything inside that may have cracked or whatever, is not going to be cheap. And that there could cost hundreds. So having a lens that's broken, also it stops you doing the job. So basically, if I did drop this lens and this, that and the other, and it broke off, and you're left with a bit of mount stuck on here with a bit of electronics or whatever, you can still disengage it, you can take it off, you can grab another lens out of your bag, put it on, and carry on doing the job. Maybe not how you wanted to do it, but it still allows you to carry on working. With the lenses though, so when I broke, I think I had a Sigma 50mm f1.4, and I fell down I tripped on a barbed wire fence. It was in grass, it was down, but the barbed wire was still in the grass and I couldn't see it, and I obviously tripped on it. I went forward, saved myself, the camera strap came over my head, and obviously the camera just went, and it bounced down like old concrete rubble, like a pile. It's about 20 to 30 feet high. Just bounce. I thought, well, that's dead. Saw the lens bounce off, and I thought, oh, that's not going to be good. By the time I got myself back up and got down there, it had left this mount here attached to the body. The lens had failed completely. I managed to get the mount off. I got all the bits together, I put them in the bag, I grabbed another, blew my sensor out and everything, I made sure it was clean, fired the camera, absolutely fine. Had a couple of scuffs on the body, but I put a new lens on. I can't remember what other lens I would have had with me back then, but carried on working. So just carried on with the photo shoot, and the model was in complete and utter shock that I hadn't sworn or anything like that. I'm very chilled. I'm a very chilled person. Everybody knows me. I don't react very much to stressful situations that much. So I was very, very chilled out about the situation. I thought, well, I've got insurance. I've got got another camera in the bag if need be anyway. But anyway, so in the end, I sent that lens, that was a Sigma, Sigma 50mm, f1.4, and that went for repair, and they rebuilt it. And what they ended up doing was actually putting a whole new outer body on, including a new mount as well. So, and it was £80 or £82 or something. It wasn't a huge amount. I think that was about 2010, 2011, something like that. About 2017 though, I did do a similar thing. Dropped a camera lens, and same thing. Broke a mount off, and that was a Sony lens. I can't remember which one. Couldn't tell you which one. Unfortunately, I can't remember. But the same situation. Sent that off to be repaired, and I think it was about £95, something like that. So it wasn't a huge difference. It was pretty reasonable. Things like that. So I was pretty impressed with that. Having a rebuild. It was just the mount actually got replaced on that side of things. But anyway, so it basically had a full clean service. Everything was checked to make sure the motors and everything were fine, and everything works properly. So basically, that's what happens if you know. The reason why lenses snap off, it's got nothing to do with build quality or anything like that. It's actually designed to do so. And I'll put a picture up. There's actually a shot from the Olympics that's obviously started, and there's already a Canon camera with a smashed off, probably a 400 f2.8 or something. They've literally just smashed off the mount, and it's failed. And there's loads of people out there going, "Oh, it shouldn't have done that. It's build quality rubbish, blah blah blah." And it's like, well, no, it's not. It's designed to do so. It's designed to remove the pressure from this body. It's designed to fail, so it basically eases the collision. It's a bit like your car has crash crumple zones. So if you're inside and you didn't have crumple zones, you take the full force as well as the car. But if you have your crumple zones, it allows the car to crumple up and you get a lot less injured. So it's the same sort of thing for the camera. The lens takes the brunt, it snaps off, or half fails or whatever, depending on the impact, and it basically should, in theory, help save this mount and help save the body. I have seen bodies cracked here before where they've been dropped on older lenses, and like I say, with an old lens and camera which I'd had done as well, we'd actually bent the lens hadn't come off, so it actually bent under pressure, obviously under impact. This bit here, the flange bit that locks in, had bent, which means you couldn't undo it. It literally just doesn't matter how much you push the button or anything like it, it bent. Eventually I managed to get it off with some brute force, but it also bent this ring here as well, and it had actually cracked the main front section of the camera. So even I think back in the early 90s that happened, film days, and it had to have a new part on the front and the new mount and everything like that as well. They used to only have four screws on the front. Sony updated all of theirs, so they all had 6. There's a picture here on the video as well of a Nikon D810 that was completely failed, and actually the mount failed as well. So the mount actually pulled through. So these have also got obviously failure of some sort built in, so that can happen if it's big enough. So in theory, hopefully it would save the rest of the other bits and pieces inside. But the other thing you have to take into consideration is if the impact's big enough, it could also kill, obviously, the shutter mechanism. So your shutter may stop working, because you've got to remember that shutter mechanisms are very, very precise. Like hundredths of a millimeter of movement. So one of your curtains, or whatever the shutter mechanism may have such a hit that it may actually make things out of sync. So you'll just wear the shutter out very, very quickly. And that actually happened to me when I did the Sigma. I think was it the first one. I think it was the A7R2, which would have been later then, so it wasn't the Sigma. That actually happened to me when I was using the Konica Minolta, actually, I believe. Either that or the A700, or even the A900 maybe, when I broke that off. I can't remember now. But basically the shutter mechanism failed about 6 months down the line, and the impact was big enough that I thought, well, actually it's probably what that was. It's knocked the shutter mechanism out of line very slightly and started to wear. It was a big impact. I mean, it fell down like 30 foot of rubble. I mean, we're talking quite a high mount. It just bounced and bounced and bounced. I couldn't believe the thing worked afterwards, you know. But yeah, so anyway, guys, I just thought I'd sort of maybe open some eyes for people. That's what I've been told by Sigma and Sony directly when I had broken both lenses, and you know, it was one of those things that I had when it was told to me that were basically designed to do so, and that's the reason why, you know, to try and protect the camera in the long term. One, obviously keep it running so you can carry on doing the job, and also just so you can just have the lens rebuilt, and it's obviously an easier part to replace the end of a lens than it is to start rebuilding a camera, because quite a lot of the time you have to take the whole thing apart to even start repairing from behind. So yeah, if you found that interesting, if you've done anything like this before, like smash lenses off, or even smash the mount off your camera, or crack the body, or anything crazy like that, you know, let us know, see what you say. I've just seen some dust on the sensor, so which I need to go and deal with now. So I'll just give this a clean. Anybody who's got the A7R4 or thinking about buying one, you've read about the excessive dust and things like that on it, I clean this maybe once, twice a year at the push. It's been absolutely fine. Just make sure you turn it off before you change lenses. That's the best way, because that way you're reducing the amount of electronic static that is built up. So anyway, guys, don't forget to click the subscribe button, little notification bell as well, and hopefully you enjoyed it. Let us know. I'll see you soon.